It's a Friday night in middle of nowhere, USA, a tiny little farm town just like so many other tiny little farm towns across the country. There's a general store, a local restaurant for those feeling fancy enough to not cook at home, a single stoplight, and lots of open fields. Some call it quaint. Others use slightly more colorful language, but to the local teens looking to get into trouble and kick off the weekend, there's only one way to describe this town: boring. There are no coffee shops to sit in, gossiping and getting a caffeine buzz. There are no bars or nightclubs to try to sneak into. There aren't any restaurants that stay open past 9 p.m. And forget about going to the movies. The closest movie theater is over an hour's drive away. So, with nowhere to go to hang out, the town's teens have taken to filling their weekends in a handful of ways. They can watch a movie in someone's basement, piled onto beanbag chairs and digging through whatever snacks happen to be in the house. They can cram into someone's pickup truck and just drive around town until they get tired. They can have a bonfire in a remote patch of woods and hope they don't accidentally start a forest fire. Or they can get up to a little bit of mostly harmless mischief, playing pranks around town. Sometimes that looks like TPing a house. If it's Halloween season, maybe they steal a few jack-o'-lanterns off of someone's porch. But tonight, one particular group of friends is in the mood for something new, something different, something maybe even a little dangerous. The three of them, 2 boys and 1 girl, are sitting on the couch together, watching TV in the basement, when the girl suggests the idea. What if, on this particular Friday night, they went cow tipping? At first, the 2 boys are unsure. They've never tried cow tipping before. In fact, none of them can even think of anyone they know who's done it. Sure, they've heard rumors, but it's always a story about a friend of a friend's cousin, someone they'd never seen. The shorter of the 2 boys pipes up, worried that tipping the cows over might hurt them. The other counters, suggesting that it's more likely that they would get hurt, since they're much smaller and lighter than a cow. The girl stands up and speaks over them both, taking over the room again. She's always been the leader of their little gang ever since they were little kids. She always comes up with the big, crazy ideas, and the other 2 might protest, but they always wind up going along with it. And usually, it all works out. Sure, someone might break an arm along the way, but they also wind up with a great story. Tonight is no exception, and despite their protests, the boys agree to go along with her plan. It's Friday night, the sun has gone down, and the 3 friends are going out cow tipping. So they change into all black clothes to better blend in with the shadows, pile into the taller boy's pickup truck, and drive down the lonely dirt road to Old Man Jenkins' farm. There out in the field, there should be plenty of cows just ready to get tipped over. They pull off the road about a 5-minute walk from the farm, not wanting Old Man Jenkins to spot the headlights and realize that he has some unexpected visitors sneaking in to knock over his cows. Then, under the cover of night, they sneak along the road toward the farm. As they approach the farm, the group can make out the silhouettes of cows standing in the field. Perfect. But as they creep closer, they suddenly hear a low humming sound. At first, they can't quite place it, but they quickly notice that the hum grows louder the closer they get to the fence. The shorter boy touches the fence with his index finger experimentally and quickly comes to regret it. With a loud zap, electricity courses through his body, sending him jumping backward with a yelp. No doubt about it, Old Man Jenkins put in an electric fence to protect his property. With an ordinary fence, they'd just climb it and hop over. But now, that's not an option, unless they're keen to get electrocuted. If the group wants to see their plan through and tip some cows, they'll have to find a way around the fence. The taller boy suggests that they give up now, head back home, and watch a scary movie or something, but the other 2 disagree. If they give up now, at the first obstacle, then not only has the night been a waste, but they've proven themselves to be cowards too. They're not cowards, they're cow tippers. Or they will be, once they've figured out a way through the fence. The girl snaps her fingers as a proverbial light bulb goes off in her head. There must be a generator powering the fence somewhere nearby. If they can locate it, they can switch it off, hop the fence, tip a cow, make their escape, and no one will ever be the wiser. Except the cow, of course. The shorter boy raises his hand to interrupt and asks how they could possibly find a generator in the middle of the night on an unfamiliar farm. It's simple, the girl explains. They'll follow the sound of the electric hum and look for the spot where it's loudest. Since it's so dark out, their hearing should be even more sensitive than usual. The boys can't argue with that ironclad logic, so they agree to start following the noise. The teens can't be sure exactly how long they followed the electric humming sound, but they've been walking so much that their legs are aching and their feet are growing heavier by the minute. The lack of any street lamps or city lights makes it difficult to navigate or orient themselves, to figure out where they are in relation to the farm. Even the moon has disappeared behind a cloud, leaving the three in a vast, dense darkness with no reprieve in sight. How are they going to get back to the truck? Are they even on the farm anymore? They have to be. The hum of the generator is louder than it has been all night. They must be getting close. The girl pulls out her phone, using its flashlight to scan the area just up ahead for any kind of shed or other structure where the generator could be tucked away. Instead, she spots something even more exciting: the silhouette of a cow grazing in the grass about 10 feet away. She hisses the names of her companions, calling them close to her, and points out the cow. Somehow they must have ended up on the farm anyway. Maybe there was a back entrance they accidentally stumbled through without noticing it in the dark. Either way, the night is looking up. Time to do what they came here to do. They've got to keep quiet and be careful in their approach, since the cow isn't sleeping. It's facing away from them, but there's still only so much of an element of surprise that they can achieve with an alert cow. If it sees them and gets scared, it could run off. She shushes the boys, and together, they all begin to advance toward the cow. When they're about 5 feet from the animal, the taller boy feels his foot sink into something wet and squishy. He says a silent prayer that he hasn't just stepped in what he thinks he just stepped in, but when the smell floods his nostrils, he realizes that, unfortunately, yes, he has stepped in a cow patty. He can't help but cry out in disgust and frustration, much to his friend's chagrin. The cow freezes, then slowly turns its head toward them. The first thing the kids see is a sudden light, temporarily blinding as it cuts through the darkness. As their eyes adjust, they realize that it is not one light, but two bright lamplights emanating from just about where the cow's head should be. No, not just about. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but somehow the lights are beaming directly out of the cow's head. The teens stumble backward, away from the bizarre creature in front of them. Their eyes continue to adjust, and they can now get a good look at the thing they had falsely assumed was a normal cow. This is no flesh and blood animal. The creature in front of them is made from solid metal. Its eyes are light bulbs. Its head is topped with brass horns. At the tips of its legs, there are wheels rather than hooves. The humming sound that the teens previously attributed to the generator seems to be coming from the creature's body itself. And none of that is the most terrifying detail. No, the most frightening thing about this metal beast is the dark red stain around its mouth. The girl focuses her phone's flashlight on the ground near the creature, and she sees that it was definitely eating, but it was not eating grass. The creature is feasting on the carcass of a coyote lying on the ground, or at least she thinks it might have been a coyote. The carcass has been all but picked clean, leaving only blood-stained bones behind. Did this monster hunt the coyote? Did it kill it? It certainly had no qualms about feasting on its corpse. The shocking sight jolts the girl back to reality, and she tastes the metallic tang of adrenaline on her tongue. This is real, this is happening, and it is very, very bad. Forget about trying not to waste a Friday night. They need to make sure they make it through the night alive. The girl grabs each of her friends by the arm and yanks them away from the creature. Carnivorous cow robots are not what they signed up for, and they need to get back to the truck as fast as humanly possible. As they run, arms and legs pumping like mad, the teens realize with a rush of relief that the cow monster is not chasing after them. They stop for a moment to catch their breath, but then they hear it again, that humming. The sound that they now realize does not belong to a generator. It's getting louder, getting closer. Up ahead, they can see another set of lights, the sign of another metal cow approaching them from the opposite direction. Uh-oh. They're trapped, with one metal cow in front of them and another behind. As the one in front of the group rolls closer, they can see its horns turning and rotating until their pointed tips are directly aimed at the teens. The tips of the horns open until they look like the barrels of a shotgun. They don't even have to give each other the signal. The friends all know that it's time to run again, and they take off down a side path, away from both of the metal cows. Behind them, they can hear the crack of gunfire, and the tall boy feels something whiz past his left ear. These carnivorous metal cows also have guns? This is just too much. They duck low to the ground as they run, managing to avoid the bullets. If they get hurt, if they fall down, they know they'll likely wind up as the metal cow's next meal. As they turn a corner, the teens see the most beautiful sight of the night, the truck. parked just where they left it. They made it back. They yank open the doors, locking them as soon as they're inside. The tall boy cranks the engine, and as they speed away from the farm, the teens can just barely make out the metal cows behind them, their glowing eyes turning to pinpoints in the rearview mirror. They all agree to never speak about that night to anyone ever again. No one would ever believe them after all. These kids were lucky. Not everyone survives an encounter with SCP-6854. SCP-6854 is a species of biomechanical entities that resemble Bos taurus, or domestic cattle. Their population is sparse, as far as the Foundation is able to determine, but they can be found scattered across the continent of North America. SCP-6854 instances have external shells made up of a metal alloy of indeterminate nature, though it is most similar to stainless steel. The creature's interior is made up of gears and cogs, as well as an organ system composed of vulcanized rubber. The creatures are thought to be able to see via a pair of carbon filament lightbulbs attached to their skulls, which seem to serve as eyes. Despite the lack of power source, these lights remain lit at all times unless the creature is sleeping. Instances of SCP-6854 are able to move around via small wheels attached to the base of each leg, and some specimens have been observed moving at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. Because these wheels are best at navigating flat terrain, SCP-6854 herds tend to be found in flat, low-lying plains. In place of a tail, SCP-6854 instances have an appendage that can fold outwards like an umbrella and can be used to shield the creatures from rain to prevent rusting. In terms of diet, SCP-6854 instances are omnivorous, and any food that they eat is converted into anthracite, or hard coal, which they then, deposit through a metal flap on their undercarriage. How exactly this digestion process works is anybody's guess, and so far the Foundation has been unable to replicate it outside of an SCP-6854 instance's body. Both sexes of SCP-6854 have two hollow brass horns on their heads, approximately 140 centimeters in length. These horns can be moved by the creature, and in some instances, the creature is able to produce and fire lead bullets from their horns. They use this ability when threatened, when hunting prey, or during mating season, as a show of dominance against a rival. Speaking of mating season, SCP-6854 is capable of sexual reproduction. Females, once pregnant, experience a gestation period of approximately 12 months, at which point they birth litters of between 3 and 5 offspring. Female SCP-6854 instances possess an appendage similar to an udder, and after giving birth, this udder fills with a substance chemically identical to petroleum oil. The newborns consume this substance via this udder, allowing them to grow into big, strong robo-cows. Alright, robo-cow isn't the official terminology, but you have to admit, it's cute. The official terminology, as listed by the Department of Mythology and Folkloristics, is Bos machinus, or Cogcows. I still think robo-cows is better, but I suppose that's not my department. The department discovered several literary mentions of the Cogcows in fantastical field guides such as Fearsome Critters of the Lumberwoods, where they are included among the likes of the tea-kettler and the hoop snake, creatures from North American lumberjack folklore largely regarded to be fictional. Though, of course, many would have once thought the Cogcows fictional, and look how that turned out. So maybe there are hoop snakes rolling around out there too. But I digress. Because of their inclusion in seemingly fictitious accounts, many early sightings of SCP-6854 flew under the radar of the American Secure Containment Initiative, a precursor group to the Foundation we know, love, and occasionally fear today. The earliest verified sighting on record belongs to Elmer Shepard, an American hunter also referred to as POI 2645. In 1905, Shepard was hunting in the prairies of Oklahoma when he stumbled upon the carcass of a white-tailed deer. He scanned the area, looking for whatever predator took the beast down. He didn't have to look very far. Only a few feet away stood a cogcow, munching on a piece of the deer's remains. He published the story of his encounter, but no one believed him. Many outright mocked him, and those that didn't were still quite skeptical. It was impossible, they said, that he had encountered a cow made from machinery. So Elmer set out to find proof. In June of 1905, Elmer and his 19-year-old son Warren set out to retrieve the ultimate proof, the head of an SCP-6854 specimen. Warren was not much of a hunter, but he was concerned for his father's well-being and increasingly obsessive behavior, and so agreed to join him. Only one of the Shepherd men would return home from the expedition, Warren. He arrived not with the head of a cogcow, but with his father's remains. Elmer Shepherd had been killed by a gunshot wound to the throat. Naturally, local authorities suspected Warren of being involved in his father's death, perhaps a hunting accident. But when they brought Warren in for questioning, he told a different story. He and his father had spotted a female cogcow grazing in a field. As they watched, she stopped grazing and crossed to two cog calves who began to drink from her petroleum oil udder. Warren raised his rifle, but found he could not bring himself to pull the trigger. Elmer was less hesitant, aiming his rifle directly at the mother cogcow's head. But before he could take the shot, she trained one of her horns on Elmer. With a sudden bang, a bullet shot out of the horn, hitting Elmer in the throat and knocking him to the ground. Just like his father before him, no one believed Warren's story. There were no other suspects in Elmer's death, and Warren Shepherd was sentenced to death by hanging for the crime. The morning of Warren Shepherd's execution, a crowd gathered to watch the hanging. Around 40 townspeople were there, eagerly awaiting the morbid show. The executioner slipped the rope around Warren's neck, and he fell to his eventual death. Suddenly, the crowd could hear a strange, low-pitched humming noise. Just then, an instance of SCP-6854 approached, emerging from the grasslands. The majestic cogcow stood there, surveying the scene for a moment before she tilted her horns toward the hanging man. She fired one single bullet, right at the rope that Shepherd was dangling from. The well-placed bullet severed the rope, cutting him loose. She set him free in more ways than one. She stopped the execution, but she also revealed herself to all of the townspeople, including the judge. She proved Warren's story to be true. Later that day, he was officially exonerated on all charges. His father truly had, as he said, been shot by a mechanical cow. All public records of this incident have, of course, been suppressed. The public have no way of accessing it or any other official accounts of experiences with SCP-6854. The American Secure Containment Initiative and the SCP Foundation are to thank for that. Since they were first discovered, 12 instances of SCP-6854 have been captured in the wild, and 30 more have been bred in captivity. As for the cogcows still roaming the wild plains, their numbers are currently unknown. All currently known instances of SCP-6854 have been fitted with tracking devices and are currently contained in hangars 1 through 10 at the Site-44 Anomalous Wildlife Wing. SCP-6854 must be given 150 kilograms of plant and animal matter per day, and any natural byproducts produced by the creatures will be harvested and sold by the front organization Standard Coal and Petroleum Incorporated. As for the instances of SCP-6854 that are still out there in the wild, they are the responsibility of Mobile Task Force Mu-9 Wild Wranglers, who have the job of tracking, capturing, and transporting wild SCP-6854 instances to Foundation containment. The MTF is also responsible for administering Class A amnestics to any witnesses that encounter SCP-6854. The cogcows defy everything we thought we knew about cows, nature, and life itself. Their organs are rubber and they, expel coal, but they can digest food and birth children. But even more exciting than their unusual physiology, to me, is the fact that they were once believed to be nothing more than a folktale. If they were real after all, who knows what else we may discover? Yesterday's folktales may become tomorrow's scientific study. It's all rather exciting, though I personally hope to never encounter a snallygaster in the wild. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-1048, Builder Bear.